Hey guys, welcome back. All right, so today, let me turn this up a little bit so you can see me. Okay, today you are doing word problems with exponential functions. So I have a couple examples I'm going to work with you here. You don't have these to pull up anywhere. I'm just going to work these two examples and then you're going to do the assignment. Okay, the assignment I think has 8 problems on it. So I didn't want to work 2 of those. I want you to work all 8 of those problems and turn that in on Canvas. Okay, so here we go. We have Nadia. She owns a chain of fast food restaurants that began with 200 stores. The rate of increase is 8% annually. Okay, so this is the type of word problem that deals with exponentials. So we're going to write an exponential equation from this problem. But we need to remember a few things. So first, our equation for exponentials, our standard form, is, okay, what just happened here? Ooh. Okay. Let's see if it's going to work. Here we go. Sorry, guys. All right, so our standard form for exponential equations is y equals ab to the power of x. And last week we talked about how a is our y-intercept, and we also said it's our initial value. So initial means starting. I'm going to also write starting. So it's our starting value. B was our growth or decay rate. I didn't write my, wait, there we go. Decay rate. So it's either the growth rate or the decay rate. So how fast are we growing or how fast are we dying, okay? So when we write the equation for this example here with Nadia, her initial value, what did she start with? Well, in this case, she owns fast food restaurants. She had 200 stores. So it began, the starting, with 200 stores. So I'm going to have y equals 200. A is 200. So I know A equals 200 because that's how many stores I started with. The rate of increase is 8% annually. So rate of increase has the word rate in it. That's my growth rate. Increase means I'm growing. So this is my growth rate, 8%. But here's the thing. If I take and I just put, I'm going to change, hopefully remember how to do this, 8% to change it to a decimal. The decimal's at the end, right? So this is 8. To change it from 8% to a decimal, I take the decimal and I move it over 2 spaces, multiply it by 100. So really, 8% is the same thing as 0.08 as a decimal. Hopefully you remember how to do that, okay? So we need to divide it. Divide 8% by 100, not multiply. I said it backwards. So you'd multiply 0.08 by 100 to get the percent. Okay. But if I just plugged in 0.08 here, then let me show you what happens. Let me open my calculator really quick. What's happening is if I multiply 200 by 0.08, I haven't put my x up here yet. I'm just going to pretend like my x is 1, okay? But if I multiply this, then I'm taking something that's pretty small. All right, second mode brings me back home. Okay. So I'm going to do 200 times 0.08. And what happens? This tells me 16. So if I just put 0.08 in, just 8%, then it's taking 8% of the 200 I already started with. But what we're saying is we've got an increase. We're growing. We have a growth rate. So that means I'm starting with 200 and I'm increasing by 8% every time. So what we have to do, and this is something you're just going to have to remember, is I'm going to take, when we have growth, if it's a percent, we need to do +1. If it's decay and it's a percent, we're going to do -1. Okay? So I'm going to do 0.08 plus 1.00, and that means I have 1.08. So my growth rate is taking 1.08. And let me show you what happens then. So if I do 200 times 1.08 and hit enter, then it's 216. So it's taking the original 200 that I started with and adding that 8% to it, okay? So it's 216, and that's what we want. We're not going to go from 200 stores down to 16 stores if we're increasing, right? We're going to go from 200 to 216, all right? So my equation is going to look like 1.08 to the power of x. This is my first example here. So I know I explained a lot of things, but ultimately all you need to remember is if you have growth and you see a percent, so we have that increase of 8%, you need to add 1 to that percent. If you have decay and you see a percent, then you're going to subtract 1 from that. Okay, so it's decreasing. It's taking your initial value and subtracting from it. Okay, all right, so let's look at the second problem. If you have questions about that, let me know. I'll help you, okay? There are a couple problems like this on the assignment. So when you get to them, if you're struggling, if you don't really understand what to do, send me an email and I'll help you. Okay, so example 2, the company, a clown at your party, purchases a van to drive to parties for $20,000. The value of the van depreciates at a rate of 9% each year. So what does depreciate mean? Well, as soon as you go to a car lot and you buy a vehicle, the second you drive it off the lot, it decreases in value. It's not worth as much as you just paid for it, okay? Most of the time. Now, like, cool cars, like, really old cars. My brain's not working. Really old cars are worth some money, more money now than they were in the 50s or 60s, okay? But for most cases, and in general, if you go buy, I drive a Dodge Durango. As soon as I bought my Dodge Durango, when I drove it off the lot, it depreciated. It lost some value. I couldn't turn it around, give it back, and get the same amount of money I just paid for it, okay? And that happens over time. It's going to continue to lose money, continue to lose value. So we have our initial value, our starting value, A, was $20,000. That's the original cost of the vehicle, okay, of the van. And it's going to depreciate at a rate, so my B is going to be that 9%. But we're depreciating. That's a decay. So we're going to decay. So I'm going to take my percent, I'm going to convert it to a decimal. So this equals 0.09. And we're decaying, we're losing value. So I'm going to take 0.09, I'm going to subtract 1 from it. So you can do that in your calculator. You can do 0.09. That is not what I typed, clear. 0.09 minus 1. And we end up getting negative 0.91. Okay, so my decay rate, my B value, is going to be negative 0.91. So my equation, I'm going to plug these in. Y equals, for A, I have $20,000 times negative 0.91 to the power of X. Okay, so on some of these problems, you're going to have to think a little bit, have to add or subtract 1. Some of them you might not necessarily have to do that. If it just says it's a growth rate of 1/5, you can plug in 1/5. If it doesn't say percent, you can just plug in that number, okay? All right, so hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. See you later.